Welcome to Buzzleaps, your daily explainer. Did you know?
88% of companies claim they use AI, but a whopping 40% of those shiny new AI projects will be completely canceled by 2027. We're basically paying billions to build chatbots that hallucinate faster.
Are you ready to learn the insider workflow secrets that will bridge this gap and completely change how you see AI, the future, and Buzzleaps forever? Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The Great AI Illusion.
So look, let me give you a candid industry audit right out of the gate. The corporate AI landscape right now, it's a massive paradox. I mean, global AI infrastructure spending is just rocketing toward $500 billion this year alone. Yet, and here's the kicker, according to PwC's 2026 Global CEO Survey, 56% of enterprise leaders are reporting that their AI initiatives have yielded absolutely zero revenue growth and zero cost savings to date. Zero. We are literally pouring unprecedented amounts of capital into technology that is fundamentally failing to show up on the balance sheet. To really put this absurdity into perspective, global AI data center power capacity reached 29.6 gigawatts in 2025. That is the equivalent of the annual electricity consumption of entire countries. Think Switzerland or Austria. And what exactly is the median enterprise doing with all of this unbelievable world-altering computational power? Well, they're using it to draft generic replies to Slack messages and, summarize long email threads. We are essentially boiling the oceans and building the most advanced computational infrastructure in human history just to do basic admin tasks that barely even move the needle on corporate productivity. It's wild.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 10% ceiling.
Now, what's really interesting about this is if we strip away all that flashy vendor PR hype, we face a pretty harsh reality. Why isn't this technology translating into massive enterprise-wide financial returns? Well, the answer lies in this massive gap between ubiquitous AI experimentation and, quite frankly, abysmally low production scaling. Sure, 88% of organizations are casually dabbling in AI, but we really have to look at the 2026 data on what we call the 10% scaling ceiling. Across literally any single business function, whether that's HR, finance, customer service, you name it, there is a hard, undeniable 10% per function adoption ceiling. Only a tiny fraction of companies are actually running autonomous agents at scale.
And this isn't just some anecdotal feeling. It is a cold, hard, industry-wide reality. As McKinsey's State of AI report recently highlighted, most organizations are just stuck in this sort of purgatory of pilot programs. You probably know the exact feeling I'm talking about. You build a slick internal HR chatbot, right? And it can brilliantly recite the company policy on vacation days. But the moment an employee actually asks it to submit a time-off request in the system, it completely breaks down. It captures a tiny bit of value in this one isolated corner of the business, but the financial impact simply isn't materializing because the tech isn't being deeply embedded into the actual DNA of the operations.
Let's move on to Section 3, the project cancellation trap. This brings us to a really critical warning. For all the busy executives out there listening, let me explain exactly how to avoid the 40% project cancellation trap. Gartner is forecasting that by 2027, over 40% of all agentic AI transformation initiatives are going to be completely canceled. Why? Unclear return on investment and wildly escalating costs. We are bleeding capital on projects that are basically destined to fail. The fatal flaw here, and by the way, MIT research shows this has a staggering 95% pilot-to-production failure rate, is treating agentic AI like a simple feature drop-in. This means taking an incredibly powerful autonomous agent and just awkwardly shoehorning it into a clunky legacy workflow. It's literally like putting a Ferrari engine into a horse-drawn carriage. The organizations that are actually seeing 5% or more EBIT impact from AI are doing the exact opposite. They are undertaking complete ground-up workflow redesigns.
And this brilliantly illustrates what economists call the weakest link constraint. It perfectly explains why those drop-in features fail every single time. Imagine your business process has 10 sequential steps. If you use AI to automate the first 9 steps so they happen instantaneously, but step number 10 still requires a human manager to manually open a spreadsheet, verify a number, and click approve, well, your aggregate efficiency gains are basically zero. The whole process is still entirely bottlenecked by that final manual step. You haven't actually solved the problem, you've just moved the traffic jam further down the road. And now the human at step 10 is just getting honked at by a supercomputer.
So, Section 4, bridging pilot to production. So, what does this all mean? How do we actually fix this? Well, if you want your organization to survive the next 2 years of this massive technological shift, you need a hands-on guide for overcoming deployment failures. So here are the specific steps to bridge the gap between pilot and production.
Step 1. Stop looking at isolated tasks. Just stop. You need to rigorously map your end-to-end workflows. You have to understand the entire chain of value. Step 2. Demolish data silos. AI agents simply cannot perform if they don't have access to clean, unified corporate data. Step 3. Fundamentally redesign your operating model to assume that digital labor is doing the heavy lifting. And finally, Step 4. Only then, after all that prep, do you actually deploy your autonomous agents. This is exactly how you transition from an experimental pilot to scalable, highly profitable production.
Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds into workflows without coding.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. You're saying, this sounds absolutely great, but I don't have an army of machine learning engineers to build this out. Well, the amazing news of 2026 is that you don't need them. The crucial point here is understanding exactly how to build an AI automation workflow without coding. Thanks to the watershed release of agent frameworks like OpenSeal, the focus has shifted entirely away from writing raw syntax and over to platform orchestration. You achieve this by utilizing these no-code AI agent platforms, focusing your effort on writing really robust prompt policies and guardrails, mapping your old legacy systems to APIs, and visually designing logic flows. You're no longer typing out endless lines of Python. Instead, you're acting as the conductor of a digital orchestra, directing your virtual workers on exactly what to do.
Which brings us to our final point, Section 6, redesigning the future workforce.
But bringing in all these digital workers forces us to confront a very real, very urgent human element. What happens to our existing staff? The data is already showing some massive shifts. According to the Stanford HAI 2026 AI Index, we've seen a nearly 20% contraction in employment for junior software developers aged 22 to 25 just since 2024. Companies are using AI to automate that entry-level work and are, unfortunately, choosing to just cut those junior roles for quick cost savings. But academics from the Ivy Business School are warning that this is an exponentially bad move. I really want you to ask yourself, if you fire all your juniors today, who exactly is going to be running your company in 10 years? You are completely destroying your talent pipeline for senior experienced leaders tomorrow.
You simply cannot just fire your junior staff. You must redefine what entry-level even means. We need to upskill them into these new, absolutely vital roles. They need to become agent orchestrators. Instead of writing boilerplate code all day, a junior's day is now about directing and managing multiple AI tools to build complex applications. They must become quality assurance supervisors and AI output evaluators, auditing the work of the digital labor for accuracy. And of course, they need to be the workflow redesigners we talked about earlier. We absolutely have to train young professionals to govern and oversee AI systems right from the very start of their careers.
Which leaves us with a stark choice as we look at the reality of 2026 and beyond. I want you to honestly ask yourself, is your organization truly doing the hard work of redesigning its workflows from the ground up? Or are you just dropping in shiny new AI features and waiting to become part of that 40% cancellation statistic? Take a moment to really let that number sink in. The answer to that question will dictate whether AI becomes your greatest competitive asset or your most incredibly expensive illusion.